It's your boy, what's the word?
I gotta say what's up to my y'all Smooth Vega.
Tuned into the Smooth Vega podcast. The Smooth Vega podcast.
The podcast bitches.
Yo, man, what is going on, everybody? First off, I got to start off by shouting out Standout Nation. They geared me up, hooked me up with these badass shoes and this dope-ass shirt. They knew that I was going to do an interview today, and they said, hey, man, come through. Big shout out to Cosign Magazine, the Cosign Awards. I actually just won an award, Mo. 2023 Public Figure of the Year. I just won an award. Shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. My brother's in the building. And you know what? My brother never comes to see me film. So you know the reason why he's here is because some dope shit is about to go down. Look, man, Mo, you've been doing interviews with me for a while on the podcast, but you always know that the octave in my voice goes a little bit louder whenever I have pro wrestlers in the building, because everybody that knows me knows that since I've been a kid, as far back as my memory goes, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. And listen, man, today I am joined by a fucking legend. Look, put some goddamn respect on this man's name. Look, I always say this, to be considered a great, you got to be able to reproduce greats. This man has had an amazing career, a great career, and now he's reproducing people that have great careers as well. Man, I've seen it from the beginning. Listen, man, the Hall of Pain, Sexual Chocolate, the World's Strongest Man, the Nation of Domination, which I'm going to get back to the Nation of Domination here in a minute. But look, WWE Hall of Famer, now part of All Elite Wrestling. Man, I am fucking honored to be joined by the one, the only, an Olympian, a goddamn legend, a GOAT. Mark Henry's in the building. What's up, man?
Man, thank you for the introduction, man. I like that. I mean, you know, sometimes you tend to not get caught up in your own hype. I just never allowed myself to feel like, you know, hey, man, you all that. Like, but when you hear your credentials and you hear how people see you, it's hard not to. But I'm still just so evenly killed with it. You know, I don't never want to let that go to my head.
Dude, I feel like a fucking teenager right now. I'm 38 years old and I feel like a kid right now. Look, let me tell you something. Before I go any further, got to give you your flowers. Thank you so much. Damn near 30 years of entertainment that you gave and continue to give us, not only through your work, but through the work that you're putting in through the next generation of people you're bringing in. Thank you so much for the work that you've put in for us, to entertain us. Thank you so much. Seriously.
Thank you. 2 more years, 30 years.
Yeah, no, man, I've been keeping track, you know, and big thank you to AEW for, you know, having you come out here today to join me on the podcast to talk about not only all things AEW, but to talk all things Mark Henry. And like I said, I started off by saying, to be considered a great, you have to be able to reproduce greats. We were talking on the way over here about some of the great careers that you've had your fingerprints on, that your DNA's in. Rich Swann, Apollo Crews, Baron Corbin, Braun Strowman. But I want to specifically talk about 2 talents, and that's Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, who both, in my opinion, are currently on course to have a main event program, probably on the biggest show that there is in pro wrestling. Yep. And they are a byproduct of Mark Henry. How does it feel when you see these 2 women building, you know, this big program that would not be possible without you identifying this talent and saying, you know what, I think you can be in this field and succeed. And goddamn, were you not only right? I mean,
when you're right, you're right, huh?
Oh man, you're right.
I didn't mess with either one of them. I'm very proud. I'm very proud. I know what it looks like for success to happen. I've been surrounded by, you know, my whole life. And if you can't recognize what's staring you in the face, that you look and you go, who is that? You start asking questions. Like, what do they do? Like, you know, you hear them talk and they make people laugh and they interact with everybody, because you need people that are glib and colorful, that have an understanding that you can't be shy. You can't be in your own skin, like afraid of being yourself. And Bianca is not afraid of anything, and neither is Jade. And I could see them both meeting at WrestleMania one day in a main event capacity. Both of them.
Absolutely. My question is, who would you want to win?
Wow. I've always subscribed to the theory that WrestleMania is the payoff. So whoever was going as the babyface is who I would want to win.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think it's crazy because, I mentioned some of the wrestlers that you played a big part in not only discovering them and getting them to the big show. All of them champions. Every single one of them champions.
Bianca champion, Jade champion, Rich Swann champion, Apollo Crews champion, Baron Corbin world champion, Bryan Danielson world champion,
Braun
Strowman world champion.
I mean, come on.
I'm batting 1,000.
Come on. And you know what?
There's a lot of others that are not champions, but the notables are the ones that y'all hear about a lot. But there's hundreds of wrestlers that, like Pat Buck, who is at AEW. He's one of the lead writers, directors, producers for AEW. Like when he was young, I told him that he was too shy, that he needed to come out his closet. And he was like, I just don't want to make waves and stuff. It's like wrestling is about making waves.
Yep.
So like there are people that I touched early on in their careers and he didn't have money. He spent all his money on gas driving from New York to Louisville, Kentucky. And I would take him to Golden Corral, to Luby's and places like that. I was like, bring some Ziploc bags. Like you gotta, hey, you don't want to starve. So you gotta teach people how to eat. You gotta teach people not just physically speaking, but metaphorically speaking. You gotta get them to understand that, if you're gonna eat, you gotta open your mouth.
But see, this is the thing about it. I had seen an interview that you had mentioned, right before you departed WWE to go to AEW. You had expressed like, I want to transition into the executive role. I want to start, really going to that next phase. And in my opinion, you are already operating as an executive when you're able to, scout talent at that level. Because, some of the names we mentioned, there was some heavy hitters, Hall of Fame careers that are a direct result of your fingerprints on these people and being able to identify it. I'm like thinking in my head, how in the world can an organization not see your value to that degree? Now, granted, maybe timing, we'll never say that might have not been it. But is that kind of what opened the door for you to be able to get it now to where you're at with AEW? And is AEW kind of allowing you to kind of spread your wings in that capacity?
Well, I'm going to say this. There's a lot I know now that I didn't know when I was at WWE.
Gotcha.
I've learned a lot these last 3 years at AEW, how to be an executive. And at that level, they didn't want to do on-the-job training. I think that's the, but if I owned the company, I would have just said, hey, I'm going to make you the special assistant to the chairman. This is what I want you to try to accomplish every day, and just go with that. But that's not what happened. And I don't hold no grudges. It ain't no heat. It's like Vince knows how competitive I am. And I told him, I was like, man, like I want to win. Like not just win as far as, who's the person holding the title over their head, but I want to be connected with success. Being connected with success is what turned me on.
Yeah.
It ain't, man, like the days of looking at hot girls don't do it for me. Like the thing that, like, making something go to the top and you see somebody win an Oscar. I want to be connected to a wrestler that wins an Oscar.
Hey, you might be.
Emmy.
Hey, man,
You know
might
what I'm saying? Like, I want to do something that haven't been done before.
Well, and I think for me, whenever I think about your career, and by the way, I was telling you earlier, one of my favorite moments ever on TV was your fake retirement angle, man. That was it was cinema. It was beautiful. It got me in real time. But, talking about, just being connected. This is the reoccurring theme of the episode, right? To be considered a great, you have to be able to reproduce greats. It's something about, because I share that passion with you, where for me, it's like, it's not about what, I've done in my career. Even though I have had a decorated career in my field, it's now being able to pay it forward and extend my lifeline professionally 15, 20 years by being able to bring in that next generation of talent.
Right.
And
see the success of your cameraman, your lighting technicians, the people that help you produce.
Correct.
Like, you want to see people go and eat. Like, if you can get a job doing something that pays more than what I pay you, listen, go do it. Make sure that I have somebody that's qualified and able to, run my show.
Man, for sure. And I think that's what it's all about. I want to talk about AEW, right? Obviously, AEW is still in its first 5 years of existence. I feel that AEW has been not only such a great alternative for pro wrestling fans, but also really had an impact in a world that needed a shakeup. It needed to be disrupted. Let's be honest. I mean, right now, currently in WWE, you have the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. That does not happen without AEW being the segue to that. The CM Punk is now back in WWE. 1,000%. That does not happen without AEW's existence.
Right.
Where do you see the state of AEW currently right now? Obviously, it's still early. It's still growing. But you're seeing guys like Adam Copeland, who's Edge in WWE. You see guys like Christian Cage. You got guys like Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, not to mention people like Daniel Garcia. You see the great things that Swerve was here the other day.
Oh, man.
Some of the things that he's doing right now, amazing. MJF, obviously. What do you kind of feel about where AEW is currently at and how you've seen it grow in the time that you've been there?
Man, I've seen the growth. I've seen the development. You start at the top. MJF has evolved already. In the 3 years that I've been there, he went from barely cracking TV to being the number one guy. That's a long, long stride. That's a long way. That's not driving. That's not even flying. That's getting on the space shuttle. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference in what MJF did than a lot of the other people. But also the divisions and the tournaments and the stuff that AEW is doing to put everybody in a positive. It's hard, man, to make multiple champions. You want to make a champion, not just, the multiples. You want people to have like career defining moments. And they've done a really, really good job of doing that.
I think for the casual wrestling fans out there that may be watching, that may not be as familiar with AEW, let me kind of put this into perspective. And correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, obviously, you have the melodramatics with WWE, the storyline. It's more, kind of soap opera with the wrestling being more on the, pay-per-view payoff. I think when you look at AEW, for me, it's a lot less talk and more action. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. There's still strong promos on there, but if you want to get your pro wrestling fix and some strong in-ring, action, I think AEW fits that. And that's for anybody that's not watching. Because I'm going to tell you something. When I watched, Brian Danielson, I always butcher his name because I keep on going to Daniel Bryanson, when he wrestled Kenny Omega in Asher, in New York when they wrestled.
At the Arthur Ashe Stadium.
There you go, Arthur Ashe Stadium. Wow. That was probably one of the best matches I've ever seen on TV. Ever. Because it wasn't a paper. This was on network television.
Danielson has had some bangers.
Yeah.
I mean, the match that he had with Adam Page for an hour.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Like, I'm at ringside just going, guys, like y'all, this is gonna outlive you.
Yeah.
Man, you know how incredible a match you got to have to where you stop thinking about right now. You start thinking, wow, 20 years from now, people are going to be watching this going, what a hell of a job they did. So, like, AEW is they've put forward some great moments, but also business wise, like having a relationship with Warner Brothers and being on TBS and TNT and having the commercial space and the sponsors that they have. Like, that is big because what they've done is they've gave other wrestlers a way to make a living, to make money. Because when WCW went down and WWE took over, yeah, they kept a lot of guys, but there was a lot of guys that left.
Yeah.
And, AEW has came along and gave wrestlers another place to go where they can create leverage for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, I want to make X amount of dollars. Well, this is all we got to offer you. But if there's another place in town, then you can say, well, I'll just go over there. They offered me this. I was giving you the opportunity to match it.
Yeah. And I also think, too, when you look at someone, for example, like Swerve Strickland, who was on the show, who, was part of WWE at one point, clearly dropped the ball with him, or it didn't work out there, right? He comes over to AEW, and look at what he's doing right now. Like, he's elevated, man. He's honestly, probably having, if not one of, I told him the other day, I think he's the breakout pro wrestler 2023.
He is definitely the breakout wrestler of 23.
I truly believe that.
But you got to look at this too. Is he the same guy that he was at WWE?
Not at all.
At NXT?
Nope.
He's not the same guy. He grew up. He 20 pounds heavier. He looks more the part. Also, he didn't do a lot of the hardcore, the tough character building, the phase that you go, hey man, be careful, that dude ain't right.
Yeah.
He willing to put himself through pain in order for you to have pain. He wasn't that guy. Now he's so he's the same man, but just elevated.
So here's one thing I wanted to talk about. So obviously, a lot of times when, pro wrestlers, it doesn't work out with one organization, they get let go or they leave. You'll see the online fans, he should have got a push, should have got a push. And, what I was talking to you a little while ago about was like, man, how much of it, well, I look at it like a lot of it I feel has to do with attitude, right? Like, how bad does somebody want it? And, I think early in your career, if I'm not mistaken, right, when you first came in to pro wrestling, I read and I heard that you didn't have the best attitude early on, right?
No, I didn't.
I
I didn't have the best attitude because I was not used to pro wrestling. I was a fan. And I felt disrespected by wrestlers at that time. They didn't give a shit about the journey that I had been on for the company to notice me. And at that point, there were people that were like, hey man, you gotta throw all that stuff that you did before away and you only focus on what we're doing. And I was like, that's not, I don't know. I'm not gonna put the fact that I was the best on earth at something. You want me to throw that away? Why bring me here? So that was my mentality. And some of it was correct. But I also got hazed. And I had people that there was no indoctrine into pro wrestling. It was just, I'm gonna rib you and play practical jokes and stuff like that. I was Mark Henry. I wasn't used to nobody trying to play jokes on me. I fought first.
I would never want to fuck with Mark Henry.
And that's very wise, but they did.
Yeah.
So when I acted out, it made me look bad. And there were times where it got to the point where I didn't want to be there. And then I started meeting people like Owen, and those were the guys that were like, hey, this is the way you need to be. And when it got to that point, I ended up, going away, went to Canada, learned how to work better, and I learned how to deal with the locker room. And going to Louisville and meeting Rip Rogers. Rip Rogers taught me how to not be so caught up in your feelings. And like, I didn't realize that I was in my feelings in the first place. So like, wrestling is taught to you. And man, some of these young people that we see today, some of them gonna make it, but there'll be people that you see come into AEW and come into Impact and NXT and developmental wrestling all over the world that you won't ever see again.
And I think that's kind of the question I had for you, which was obviously, you had someone like Owen, kind of put you on the path to like, hey man, just put his arm around you. And now you're in that position where you're a mentor. You could put your arm around some of these guys that you might see like, man, look, dude, I mean, obviously patience is a part of it, putting in that work and really wanting to be better because like, obviously I've been around some of the boys and, I haven't been obviously as close to the business as you have, but I've heard guys talk about other guys that don't have the best attitude. And I think that plays a big part in why you don't see certain guys go past a certain point, in this business,
There's thousands of guys that should have made it and didn't because of one thing or another. And attitude, work ethic, and being content are three of the most damaging things to pro wrestling because you can't ever get content. You got to want more and more and more. And you cannot be idle mind and not have goals of grandeur and wanting to be great, wanting to be on the main stage and wanting to, and not be jealous, but a little envious that somebody else got the opportunity and you didn't. Yeah. Like, I got to go do something else to make these people say, put me in there. Like, if you're not going to put me in there, then shit, give me my walking papers. I'll go somewhere else and try.
Yeah.
You got to have that mentality. And then you got to have the work ethic, the studying and trying it over and over. I'm going to try it a different way. I'm going to say it a different way. I'm gonna go over here, even though they told me, hey, we're not ready for you yet. I'm not taking no for an answer because I heard it from you, but somebody else over there, they may not have seen what I'm doing. I'm good. Like you gotta have a level of confidence.
Yeah.
Like, so I grew out of that because of the people that were teaching me. Everybody don't have teachers like me.
Yeah. And that's why, it's all about paying it forward. One thing I wanted to talk about in regards to AEW, and one of the things that I enjoyed and that I love that AEW has done is honor Owen Hart. I know how much Owen has meant to you, the Owen Hart Cup. I think that was a unique way of honoring him. Being able to even have a T-shirt on sale, through the deal that they made with the Martha Hart Foundation. I know for you, you've been vocal about wanting to see him be honored, how much he's meant to your career. What did that mean to you to see, Owen's name just on national television again and, being able to reintroduce him to this new generation? Because one thing about Owen Hart, for those that weren't fortunate enough to see him, during this time, you gotta go watch these videos because his style is very influential into what you see in today's style.
Yeah. Today's style is Owen Hart.
For sure.
Like just the wrestling reversals that lead to a sequence of events. Davey Boy, and did it too, but they were all like copying each other. That was their family. Kurt Hennig was another one.
Man, one of the greatest.
That did that sequence wrestling. He would do this and he would do that, and then you would stop this, and then he would reverse it, and then he hit you with a perfect plex. And like everybody don't wrestle that, but AEW style is very much like that across the board. Look at the Dark Order.
Yeah.
The Dark Order, they're not the elite of the elite at AEW, but everybody cheers for them and pulls for them and reacts to them because they do an exciting style and they are over with the fans. And that was the thing about Owen. I love the Owen Cup because of the competition. Now, we got a tournament going on right now.
Yeah, the Continental Classic.
And that Continental Classic is awesome. It's incredible. But it's a derivative, I think, of the Owen Cup.
Yeah.
So, it was so good to see Martha again and to see the kids being grown-ups now, and her allowing my brother to be honored.
Yeah.
And, if you look at her son, can you imagine waking up every day and seeing a likeness that looked just like Owen?
Yeah, man.
He is a spitting image. How much it used to hurt her just to wake up and Owen not be here and then have to look at that little boy that looked just like him. That had to be rough. So I just wanted her to be okay, but it happened on her time.
Yeah.
It had to happen on her time. It wasn't, I felt like at some point I might have been too selfish wanting it for me because I felt like it would make me feel good to see him honored. But, it had to be on her time.
And kudos to Tony Khan and AEW for making it happen because, I feel like his story, especially within pro wrestling, deserves to be told.
Yeah.
It deserves to be told. I was telling you, look, man, I don't know if you've seen Logan Paul in that ring, but
he looked like an Owen clone.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, every time I see him, I jump on Twitter, I'm like, Logan Paul reminds me of a young Owen Hart. And it's crazy to say that, but just look at the mannerisms, the facial expression, and I'm like, dude, that's Owen.
Yeah.
And you see how many people are raving about how he performs. That's Owen. To me, that's Owen,
Man, Owen was still the show.
Yeah.
Every time. And he used to have that mentality. And I talked about work ethic. You would have been hard pressed to try to find somebody to outwork Owen. Man.
That WrestleMania 10 match with him and Brett is still one of my favorites.
Incredible.
A clinic.
It's a historical reference of what pro wrestling is.
Do yourself a favor, go watch that match if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
Switching gears, man. Look, WWE Hall of Famer. You were inducted into the Hall of Fame. They've been inducting these factions. You got NWO, you got DX. God damn it, we need the Nation of Domination.
The Nation
it has
going in.
It has to happen. The Nation of Domination, easily one of the most influential factions. The culture wants it. The culture needs it. You're talking about a group of bad man pajamas. Mark Henry, Ron Simmons, a.k.a. Farouk. You got The Godfather.
And why my boy D-Lo not in?
D-Lo Brown, man. D-Lo Brown.
Why is D-Lo not in?
D-Lo's a bad man. And of course, you already know where I'm going, the last one. The future president of the United States.
The future president, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Yo, first off, let's talk about the impact that the Nation of Domination has, because it seems like as time has gone on, it has grown more legs. More people are just like, maybe it's that age that grew up, that now we're adults. Mm-hmm. But it's like, bro, people fucking love the Nation of Domination.
Look at the success.
Man, you're not lying.
Everybody in the nation after they were done, had individual runs that were to the moon.
True that.
Everybody was a champion.
That's true.
Everybody.
That is true. My man D'Lo had the European title and the hardcore title.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the dude was must-see TV. And I hope that they're not holding against him that he was not a world champion.
Yeah.
But he was a champion. And, I mean, I learned so much from D'Lo. D'Lo mentored me, even though we were real close in age. Ron, he had been in the business 3 years longer than I did. And Ron was like, man, just listen to D'Lo. And Ron was like the master's teacher to all of us. Even Godfather. Like, wow. if Ron started talking, everybody shut up and listen. Like, that's how influential Ron was. Ron was very special to the nation.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would love to see it. You know, I think you guys deserve it. I think what you guys have meant to the culture and what you guys continue to mean to the culture, man, it's just impact beyond measure. Yeah. Impact beyond measure. Now, we mentioned The Rock. You know, obviously, The Rock, future president of the United States. Are you going to vote for him whenever he decides to go run?
It depends on his policy. I can't let my personal feelings get in the way of the success of the country. He gonna have to woo me. He gonna have to make some promises, and he gonna have to keep those promises to the people.
Man, look, you know, you guys essentially started at the same time. You know, in terms of, you know, y'all's journey.
Yeah, we lived together.
Yeah, I think y'all shared, y'all were on the road together. I heard some of y'all shared an apartment together. Like, how was, and you know what, by the way, Rock, wherever you're at, there was this TV show called Young Rock where he was getting started. I never saw young Mark Henry on your show, by the way.
Didn't need it.
He didn't need it.
That story is well documented.
Yeah, I know. But how was it being with Young Rock? I mean, you know, early in his career, obviously, I can only imagine how proud of you are of his success today.
I'm so proud, like, to see him go and do how well he's done. It's been very, very special. He knew a lot more about wrestling than I did. Like, he would even tell me, man, you a fan. He's like, this, you can't think like a fan. You got to think like a businessman. That is the difference between wrestling royalty and some entry-level fan. And he understood the business of wrestling. And I was just so honored that he shared with me, because a lot of what I know is based off those conversations that we would have at dinner about how I need to change and how I need to stop doing this and start doing that. Mark, you never gonna do arm drags. Why are you trying to do arm drags? Hell, I'm the one that should be doing the arm drags. You know what I'm saying? Like, he would talk to you very a matter of factly, but that was the way that he learned. So, you know, I appreciate them days.
Man, let me tell you something. I think when you talked a little while ago about, you know, what makes a pro wrestler go from here to here, you talk about work ethic, complacency. You know, it's well documented. Obviously, The Rock's journey early on wasn't easy.
Nobody worked harder than him.
And it wasn't easy. These guys didn't, some of the guys back there didn't want to see him.
They hated him too.
They didn't want to see him do good because, you know, he was a threat.
Yeah.
And he put in the work. Rest is history. And I know that
that was a pretty damn good first class of developmental wrestler.
Yeah.
When I came in, and then 6 months later he came in, the first two guys to be developmental wrestlers both became greats.
Yeah.
And a lot of that you have to put on Tom Pritchard, but you also got to put on Vince, because Vince don't like failing. And Vince was like, no, that was the shits. Like, you need to get better. And this is how. A lot of people will tell you the shits and tell you ain't good and discourage you. And then they don't tell you how to build yourself, how to build you up. Vince always, he would tell you, yeah, that was rotten. Like, don't ever let me see you do that again. But how about this? And then give you a lesson on how to get better and who you might need to watch. Won't you just go watch film? Like Vince was the one that instilled that in us.
One more question about The Rock. You guys used to live together, spend a lot of time together.
He liked pancakes.
I was going to ask you, not about pancakes, about music. Did you guys ever jam hip hop together?
Shit.
Come
man.
on, you got to let me know. Who was Mark Henry and The Rock listening to in the car?
We used to jump out the car on the side of the road and dance.
To who? Who was the?
We listened to Miami beat music. Like Big A's was a DJ. Disco Rick and the Dogs, Two Live Crew.
I knew Two Live Crew was coming.
Like, oh yeah. But you
Uncle
know,
Luke.
we would go back to like African Bambaataa type stuff.
Oh wow.
You know, we love Kumo D. You know, a lot of the New York, you know, rappers, intellectual.
Oh, okay.
Dougie Fresh was a favorite in the car. You know, so like we listened to the old school.
That's what's up, man. You know, you mentioned Vince. You know, anybody that knows me knows that Vince has always been one of my professional influences. I think he's fucking one of the greatest promoters of all time, if not the greatest promoter of all time. How was it working, you know, with him all those years? Like you just getting to know him. You mentioned your relationship with him and him, you know, giving you those gems to be a better performer.
Working with Vince was hard because he's a perfectionist and nobody's perfect. So he told you was rotten a lot, but he would always say how you get better. And every wrestler that ever worked for him will tell you the same thing. If you did something good and you came through the curtain, and he used to wear glasses, he would pull his glasses down on his nose and do like this. That was good shit. If you got one of those, bro, it was like getting a raise. You know what I'm saying? It literally was like getting a raise because you knew that you was going to get more time. You knew you was going to get more opportunity on TV when he loved what you did. And, you know, when I started the, you know, Hall of Pain stuff, like every week I would say something to try to pop him. He was my inspiration for some of the things that I said, you know, that's what I do. Like, I'm great. I'm supposed to do this. Like, you know, he loved that. But when I said I'll split your head to the white meat, you know, stuff that he never heard before, he would laugh his ass. You're gonna do what? Like he loved that shit. So
man, you know,
I leaned into it, and every week I tried to do something. If I start charging for air, keep your bill paid.
Man, and that's actually, you know what? I love the sexual chocolate thing that you did. I think that was just it was dope for what it was when it was. But Hall of Pain, that 3 6 Mafia theme song. Come on, man. Come on,
man.
Come on.
Like you couldn't go wrong with that.
You knew what time it was whenever he was coming through that
Sexual chocolate was fun.
Yeah, it was.
But, you know, the Hall of Pain paid the bills.
Hey, man, that put the strap on his shoulder, man. And you know what? It was beautiful to see you with the
It
title.
wouldn't go around my waist, but it fit right perfectly on the shoulder.
And it looked good on you, too, man. It looked good on you. You know, before we wrap up, I want to ask a little bit more about AEW. Obviously, you know, that's where we're at now.
Man.
What does Mark Henry want to accomplish within AEW? Where do you want to see AEW go? Obviously, you guys are in DFW right now. You guys have been in town for Dynamite, Rampage, Ring of Honor, Collision. The Von Erichs were part of the event the other night. By the way, the Von Erichs have a movie that's out right now for those that don't know, or that will be out by the time. Iron Claw. MJF is actually in that movie, who's the world champion at AEW. Let's talk a little bit about AEW and what you want to see happen and how you want to see your role not only evolve within this company, but how you want to see the company evolve as a whole.
As a whole, I would like to see the ratings go up. And I think that this tournament has done that. Like the ratings have been going up and up and up. And I think a lot of it is the energy and the mixes of matches. If AEW could continue to do what it's doing right now with this tournament, Tony has created a gold mine with it. I think the fans love seeing people wrestle that don't normally wrestle each other. And the energy is high. You know, like Roosh. Like that dude is
Roosh.
Perpetual motion. He never stops. Your ass better be in shape if you get in the ring with him. He gonna run circles around you. It's gonna look like this. Like that dude is incredible. And Tony is doing a good job of recognizing the talent and letting them go. Let the dog off the leash. And Tony's he's done a hell of a job with that, man. I can't, as far as my input, I want to support the talent. I want to get them to see differently, to get out of their own head sometimes and focus on the business and focus on what's going to be exciting for the show.
Yeah.
Don't think about you. Be selfless. You know, so if I can continue to do that and just let them remind them, you're going to get your chance. Because there's people that are, man, I want it right now. Whoa, you're going to get your chance. Just keep on developing, keep on getting better. And more the programming, the projecting psychologically on the wrestlers is where I want to do better.
Absolutely. Look, before we wrap up, I want to go over one thing and conclude with this. I interviewed Chris Jericho, and I told Chris Jericho, I said, look, man, I know that there's this consensus that all the best wrestlers come from Canada, but I'm from Texas, and I want to say this out loud.
Say it with your chest.
Texas got the best pro wrestlers,
yes!
Period. Let me go down the list. HBK, Undertaker.
Say it.
Mark Henry.
Say it.
Eddie Guerrero, right? You have Jake the Snake Roberts.
Eddie Guerrero.
The Von Erichs.
Jose Lothario.
Man, Jose Lothario. Booker T. Booker T, come on. Hey, I'm letting you know now. Texas boys right here, man. This is where it's at, man. Mark Henry, thank you so much,
brother,
for joining me, man.
Love, man.
Listen, man.
I love anybody that love our business.
Listen, man. Lifelong, man. Lifelong, yeah. Dude. I mean, look, I mean, when The Undertaker fake retired, right, against Roman Reigns, and he was going down, and it looked like, man, I cried, and I know you got a relationship with Taker. Like you don't understand. Like when you get invested so much into the product, and you got guys like yourself that have sacrificed your bodies, you know what I'm saying, for our entertainment. Dude, I can't do nothing but respect it. I love what you guys do. I went to AEW the other night, me being Mexican-American, seeing Andrade, seeing Roosh, these guys that are phenomenal at what they do, man. I just respect it on a level that people don't understand. And then people will be like, oh, man, you know that it's not, you know. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, this is theater at its finest. It's storytelling and it's physicality. And again, man, I
look at you talked about Texas. Canada, they had the Harts.
They had the Harts.
We had the Von Erichs.
True.
We had the Guerreros. Like two historical wrestling families that did so much for pro wrestling as a whole. I wouldn't have wanted to not be born nowhere else. We had the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd, man.
That's man. They got, well, you know, Canada got some heavy hitters too. I mean, you got Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, you got Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, you got the Harts. I mean, as much as
Santino Marella.
People don't like to say his name, but hey, Chris Benoit is one of the best to ever do it, man.
Yes, sir.
One of the best to ever do it, man. And one of the most respected in that ring. Kurt Angle told me himself, that was the one guy that made him elevate his game all the way. So,
yeah.
Some great guys that have been in the ring, man. And listen, you're one of the many, and you're one of the greats, and I just thank you so much, man. Like,
Thank you, bro.
You lifetime of memories, dude. Trust me, man. I really appreciate you being here. This right here is the one, the only, the world's strongest man, former Olympian, Hall of Famer, goddamn legend, Mark Henry. Put the Nation of Domination in the Hall of Fame, please.
Let's go.
AEW's very own. Let's go, man. You already know.